Hello. Today is Saint Andrew's Day. The 30th of November is also the day of birth of Andrea Palladio. And today there are 515 years since Andrea Palladio was born. So I will first make a rather short presentation about some buildings built for Saint Andrew. And then we'll talk about Andrea Palladio and his architecture on the occasion of his birthday, today being his birthday. But let's see a few buildings built by but for Saint Andrew, Andrew the Apostle. I will read a few things about him. So Andrew the Apostle, also called Saint Andrew, was an apostle of Jesus according to the New Testament. He was the brother of Saint Peter. He is referred to in the Orthodox tradition as the first called. According to Orthodox tradition, the apostolic successor to Saint Andrew is the Patriarch of Constantinople. The name Andrew, which in Greek means manly, brave, from Andrea, in Greek, manhood, valor, like other Greek names, appears to have been common among the Jews and other Hellenized people of Judea. No Hebrew or Aramaic name is recorded for him. So this is important. The name came from Greek. So it's not related with with the Hebrew and the Aram. It's not a Hebrew or Aramaic name. Andrew the Apostle was born between the 5th and the 10th after there was in Bethesda in Galilee. The New Testament states that Andrew was the brother of Simon Peter, and likewise a son of Jonah. The first striking characteristic of Andrew is his name. It is not Hebrew, as it might have been expected, but Greek, indicative of a certain cultural openness in his family that cannot be ignored. We are in Galilee, where the Greek language and culture are quite present. Andrew is said to have been martyred by crucifixion at the city of Patras in Achaia after there was 60. Early texts, such as the Acts of Andrew, known to Gregory of Tours, describe Andrew as bound, not nailed, to a Latin cross of the kind on which Jesus is said to have been crucified. Yet a tradition developed that Andrew had been crucified on a cross of the form called crux decusata, X-shaped cross or saltire, now commonly known as Saint Andrew's cross, and that's why he is depicted often in this way on an X-shaped cross. Supposedly at his own request, as he deemed himself unworthy to be crucified on the same type of cross as Jesus had been. Interesting modesty from Saint Andrew. The iconography of the martyrdom of Andrew, showing him bound to an X-shaped cross, does not appear to have been standardized until the later Middle Ages. Now, the martyrdom of Saint Andrew in the Nuremberg Chronicle is a depiction, an illustration of him, and you see here the X-shaped cross. Well, apparently until the Middle Ages, the depiction of Saint Andrew on this kind of cross was rare, if at all. Now, crucifixion of Saint Andrew by Juan Correa de Vivar, we are in 1540, 1545. Here, the X beloved by Elon Musk is here for all to see explicitly. Saint Andrew, a carving from 1500s in the National Museum of Scotland. Here he is carrying the cross, with his left arm. I'm sorry. And the statue of Andrew in the Arch Basilica of St. John Lateran by Camillo Rusconi. So, here he is. But this interaction, this intertwining of Saint Andrew with the X-shaped cross is actually appealing to those with an interest in visual provocations. Yesterday, I showed the Exeter Library by Louis Kahn, where there is an X on the top of the big atrium in the center of the building, and I approximating the meaning of that X as an expression of the unknown. So the X, the rotated cross, could also stand, for the speculative mind, for the unknown. Now I show this church from 1980, Église Saint-André. Marius Dupont, I guess, is the architect, from 1980. A modern church dedicated to Saint Andrew. Concrete, a lot of concrete was used for many churches in modernity. At that time, there wasn't a concern with the pollution that concrete is unable to avoid, but some good buildings were erected in concrete. And there is a beautiful one, the last work by Le Corbusier, which was built after he died in 1965, Saint-Pierre de Firminy-Vert. That building was dedicated to Saint Peter, the brother of Saint Andrew, we learn today, which is totally in concrete. And I was there in February, and it was unbearably cold inside. Anyway, we are looking now at a building dedicated to Saint Andrew and not Saint Peter. Now, Sant'Andrea di Mantua, here we are talking about one of the major Renaissance buildings, and that is Leon Battista Alberti's Sant'Andrea di Mantua, truly a formidable work by one of the formidable polymaths of the world ever, and that is Leon Battista Alberti. Leon Battista Alberti, who obsesses now a deconstructivist or a former deconstructivist, that is Peter Eisenman. Peter Eisenman at 90 is obsessed by Leon Battista Alberti, and previously the same Peter Eisenman was obsessed by Andrea Palladio. Bravo to him, and bravo to Alberti that he's able to inspire someone like Peter Eisenman. Do we have today architects of this kind? A scholar, a writer, an intellectual, a visionary, a builder. It is said that Leon Battista Alberti was the first architect, because until him, the architect was closer to the building site and closer to being a master builder, like Brunelleschi. I remember once when I visited San Lorenzo in Florence, a great building by Brunelleschi, and when I was exiting, there was a man sitting at the door. He was reading a book, and I asked him, "Do you know where this building by Alberti is?" And he said, "Aha, you turn your back on the last carpenter," and he was referring to Brunelleschi, "and you want to see the work of the first architect," meaning Alberti. Well, in what sense architect? In the sense that, the intellectualized architect sitting at his table or desk or drafting board is conceiving buildings that are built by others in the dust of the building sites. This is not what Brunelleschi did, because he was still carrying within himself that almost modus vivendi that the medieval man was living, and that is being there on the building site, working together with the construction workers, and not distant at the drafting board, far away from the dust and misery of the building site. But anyway, let's look at this, most surely his most important work. Leon Battista Alberti, a giant of the Renaissance, built several buildings, but this one is the most important, Sant'Andrea di Mantua. And with all due respect and affection, and maybe my words are not powerful enough, I do have to say that I notice here something that displeases me. Do you see here how this corner of the main facade of the building, because this is the western facade, the entrance into Sant'Andrea di Mantua, do you see how it attacks the Gothic tower without care, actually? You know, I mean, I don't know if the facade was finalized during Alberti's time, but this is his building, and I think this, in order to preserve the perfection, the Renaissance perfection of the facade, the negotiation with the existing building is totally neglected. So here you see, in this, I would say, disregard, disrespect towards what preceded the Renaissance, which alarms me. But this is the greatest building built by Alberti. The interior is magnificent. It's too bad that it was covered by excessive decoration, which I don't think is related to Alberti. It's probably later work. In its majesty, in its powerful structural expression, the building is magnificent. But unfortunately, the ornamentation is excessive, but I don't think that ornamentation has anything to do with Alberti. I think it's later work. I didn't do research in this field, but this is my intuition. And this is also my hope, because it is a great building, with the exception of this so-called detail, which bothers me, because it shows, in a way, the arrogance of the Renaissance towards what preceded it. This building was older. It already existed there. And I think the way this truly great building by Alberti crashes into the facade of the old one bothers me. But when I look at this interior, it's major architecture, by all means. So, Sant'Andrea di Mantua, Leon Battista Alberti, one of the greatest minds and architects of this world, as we know it. And it is dedicated, yes, to Saint Andrew. What kind of, I mean, you know, when we look back in time and we reach the Renaissance, I think very few of us would not feel a certain emotion that is unavoidable when we think about the human model that Renaissance brought on the stage of human life, and that is a belief again in the mental abilities of the human being, in beauty, in proportion, in amazing intellectual achievements. It was indeed a rebirth. And I know Frank Lloyd Wright protested against the Renaissance. He said that he didn't like the Renaissance because it was a renaissance, meaning a rebirth. But I think he misinterpreted Renaissance, because it was not a copy of the glory of the ancient times. The Renaissance was a new beginning. So the Renaissance was also a birth, and not just a rebirth. Châteauroux, Église Saint-André. Here we are in the Middle Ages, dedicated to Saint Andrew, France again. So again, I mean, yes, Sant'Andrea in Mantua is a great building, regardless of, I mean, I shouldn't say regardless, with the exception of that insensitivity towards the building that preceded it. But here we see a building from the Middle Ages, and is this building inferior to the Renaissance achievements? I wouldn't say so. No, there is a beauty here which has to be acknowledged, and by some is acknowledged, and it's good that it is acknowledged. But these buildings of the Middle Ages were not signature buildings. They were not built by, often they were not built by humans whose names we know. They were built by a collectivity, and sometimes the collectivity meant not just the guilds, the builders and the master builders, the craftsmen, the artists, but also to the building contributed, women, children, old people, and so on. The whole community contributed to erecting these incredible buildings, and they are incredible. So again, Saint Andrew inspired this community in France to build this building, which even by the standards of today is amazing. Bravo to the Middle Ages. An Indian scholar, Kumaraswamy, he thought that the Middle Ages was that period in the culture, well, not just the culture, in the history of Europe, where the artistic achievements had similarities with the artistic achievements of the of Asia, being Hindu or Buddhist, where collectivities built, temples, places of worship, where the artistic product, architecturally speaking, was the result of an effort that was collective, not individual, and where the names of the incredible work were not known. Most of the buildings built in the Middle Ages were built, anonymously. There are very few names known, and they were truly great artists. I mean, we know a few names, but very few, considering that these buildings, I mean, look at this building. This is, soon will be 1,000 years old. Now, what is this? Andreas Kirche, where is it? In Germany, a modern, thoroughly modern, almost a cube, but it is impressive in its blankness and bluntness. Even if you didn't know it was a church, you feel tempted to think that there is something here unusual. And what is unusual is the exceptionalism of the beneficiary, so to speak, Saint Andrew, and is beautifully executed, and such it is an expression of the quest for the sacred. Now another Saint Andreas Kirche, this one an old one. I just have here a collection of a few buildings built for this martyred saint, Saint Andrew. The one depicted with the X-shaped cross, the one that probably should be admired by Elon Musk as well, with his love of letter X. This is also a very good building, very different from the previous one and very different from the next one that we are going to see. St. Andreas in Essen, a modern church dedicated to St. Andrew. And we see the X, the rotated cross on the ceiling. A good building in its simplicity. The Germans do have some remarkable modern churches, some built before the Second World War, some built after the Second World War. I mean, these powerful brick walls remind me of the great works done by Louis Khan in Dhaka in Bangladesh for the government. How do you explain it that the United States, the so-called most powerful country in the world, didn't have the generosity and the vision to commission Louis Khan the way the poorest country in the world at that time? I don't know. I found this description that Bangladesh was the poorest country. I don't know if it was the poorest, but it was a poorer country, certainly much poorer than the United States, but not poorer in terms of spirit and aspiration and perhaps even culture. So they commissioned Louis Khan to build a visionary, an idealistic, um, campus for the government, which the United States never did. The United States has the banality of the White House, while Dhaka, Bangladesh, has truly a great architectural work, and that is the work of Louis Khan. And there are buildings, totally, round buildings, circular, cylindrical buildings that are with the walls, the masonry was totally made of brick, just like here in this church. Very nice building in Essen, in my opinion. Now, St. Andrew the Apostle Parish is a Roman Catholic church in Bel Air Village, Makati City. This is, I think this is in the Philippines. And its architect, unfortunately, I don't recall his name, and it's a shame, and I apologize. A very good architect, and this is a very good building. And look at this, you know, it's a modern church. You see the rotated cross as being structurally involved in the building, but also expressed towards outside of the building in a dramatic way. Maybe here at the bottom there is too much visual agitation and distraction, but I don't think that is the result of the work of the architect. That's probably the management of the church that brought all that stuff at the bottom. Otherwise, the building was quite pure in its architecture. Not bad. You see here in an older picture that the purity of the conception, architectural conception, is better seen, and I like very much the presence of the rotated cross in the structure and the aesthetics, the expression, the architectural expression of the building. Without words, you know that this is a building dedicated to Saint Andrew. Another cathedral for St. Andrew, an old building. It's probably in South America. And one in Germany again, Saint Andreas Kirche, another modern building for Saint Andrew. But if we compare these buildings with the one we saw in Philippines, I think that one there is more creative and more narrative in a legitimate way about the so-called beneficiary of the building, and that is St. Andrew. And now I end this rather imperfect and short presentation about buildings dedicated to St. Andrew, built for St. Andrew, a church in Kiev. I hope the enlightened army of the enlightened Vladimir Putin didn't bomb it. It's a famous church in Kiev, and quite ample. Interesting in this church is, in the case of this church, is this intertwining, this hybridization in a way of the church program, that you have buildings that are, well, they are connected with the church, but they contain functions like in a monastery, having to do with a secular life in a way, with a so-called normal life. The house of God or the house of Saint Andrew is above, but this one is part of the body of the whole thing, and then it's a a long a stair that leads to the entrance into the building per se. And then what is here at the bottom, why not? In the Middle Ages also, there was, selling and buying around the churches, the commerce. What can we do? It's part of life. But St. Andrew or God do make themselves known explicitly because of the architecture that elevates itself above the ephemerality of human affairs. And the stair itself is already sending a message that we are ascending. So we are in Kiev, contemplating a church built for St. Andrew. Thank you.